Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony, which today commemorates the 105th anniversary of the evacuation from Gallipoli. My name is Tristan Rallings, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Joanne Davey. 105 years ago today, the last Australian and New Zealand troops left Gallipoli. In December 1915, as the Gallipoli campaign dragged on into its 8th month, it became obvious that the stalemate on the battlefield could not be broken. Over 12 nights from 8 to 20 December 1915, the Anzac and Suvla areas were evacuated. Men, mules, stores and equipment were silently loaded into small boats and easted out to sea. For Australia and New Zealand, there was little sense of a military defeat. The story of Gallipoli had become entwined with the birth of the Anzac legend and those qualities of reckless courage, endurance, resourcefulness, mateship, and humour in adversity that are now an indelible source of national pride and an expression of national character for both our nations. Tonight, we will tell the story of just one of those Australian soldiers who lost his life in the Gallipoli campaign. We are honoured to welcome Mr. John King, President of the Returned and Services League of Australia, ACT branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is birth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Second Lieutenant Malby George Crofton Dodwell. Malby Dodwell was born on the 23rd of March 1876 in Rydal, New South Wales, the eldest of 3 children born to the Reverend James Crofton and Margaret Mary Dodwell. With his father's ministering work, the Dodwells moved often during Malby's youth, and by the time he was of school age, the family had moved to Wellington, New Zealand. Malby attended school in Wellington, and as a young man, he served in first the college and later the City Rifles, where he was commissioned with the rank of lieutenant. He was also a well-known amateur athlete in the Wellington region. In 1905, Malby married Mary Alice Cork, but the union was short-lived. His work as an indentor took him to the United States of America, and while there, he submitted a patent for a steel belt radial rubber car tyre. His travels also took him to England, where he met and began a relationship with Alice Muriel Goodwin. They were married in 1910 and settled in Kidderminster. From 1911, they welcomed 2 daughters and a son. By the time the First World War began, the family had moved out to Australia and had settled in the Sydney suburb of Manly. Muriel was pregnant with the couple's 4th child. Muriel returned to England with her children in late 1914, and in March 1915, she gave birth to their 4th child, a boy. Sadly, he would never meet his father. On the 5th of May 1915, Malby applied for a commission in the Australian Imperial Force. He was accepted, and after training at an officers' school, he was commissioned with the rank of 2nd Lieutenant and posted to the 20th Battalion, where he became a platoon commander in D Company. Dodwell embarked from Sydney with the 20th Battalion on the 26th of June aboard the transport ship Berrima, bound for Egypt. After further training in the desert, the battalion left for Gallipoli in mid-August. The 20th Battalion arrived on Gallipoli in the early hours of the 22nd of August. The sounds of war would have been audible for quite a distance, and the charnel smell of the peninsula, which could be smelt up to a mile offshore, would have quieted even the most ardent joker. Dodwell and his comrades did not have to wait long to see action. With the August offensive in its final stages, the 20th Battalion was committed to the Battle of Hill 60 along with the other battalions of 5th Brigade. Dodwell and his comrades were largely on the periphery of the fighting, and casualties were light. From September until the end of the Gallipoli campaign in December, the 20th Battalion rotated from Russell's Top to support areas. On the 13th of December, a week before the evacuation, Ottoman artillery pounded the Australian positions around Russell's Top. Dodwell was killed instantly when a shell hit the position he was occupying. He was 38 years old. Dodwell was laid to rest in the Walkers Ridge Cemetery. His burial was officiated by the 20th Battalion's chaplain, the Reverend Keith Single. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember 2nd Lieutenant Malby George Crofton Dodwell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.